if they're in a better situation. So there are some other options in there as well.
Jim, I feel like we're talking about getting a mortgage loan. I mean, you touched on a lot of the most similar things that we talk about. When you have like young folks in there that are maybe starting a business, what are you requiring like on trade lines? I mean, is there a certain number of trade lines they need to have on their credit like they do for a mortgage? And, I guess my question to you is, how does some of this compare to like home loan financing with regards to,
I can't say I have a lot of knowledge of the mortgage funding business other than taking them out, from time to time. But, the big thing for these folks that if they're young and can't qualify, here's what you can do. Okay. You're trying to get in business, let's get in business. And of course, we have a consulting firm and we can help them get in business. We can show them how to be successful. We can show them how to take these next steps. Once you've been in business for at least 4 months, there is funding available whereby you can show 4 months bank statements. And you could be funded under certain conditions. You can be funded either 1 to 1.5 times your monthly revenue based on those bank statements. So that can help jumpstart some folks that cannot do this at the beginning.
Great point. Yeah. And as far as like, are the rates, and what do the rates look like for business loan funding?
It goes all over again, depends on the lender. It could be as low as 5%. It could be as high as 20%. I know in some cases there's business credit cards that they can actually get that are interest-free for the first 12 months. So there's a variety of things in there, and it's largely going to depend on the strength of the credit. It's going to depend on the strength of the business. If it's a pure business loan, the stronger it is, the better it's going to look.
Yeah. So what if the couple or the person adds the other person in on the loan? So can they get double the money?
Well, the answer is maybe. Okay, like we had an example of a group recently. They owned 2 locations, and they needed I think they needed like $500,000, and both spouses were working. They were both making 6-figure income. They both had their own good credit scores, and each of them applied separately. And they end up getting, essentially double the money. So the answer is yes. And that's a great question because not everybody always thinks about that as, hey, here's additional opportunity. Here's what I would even tag on that, because we do get some situations where one spouse will apply and maybe the income's there, but, they just don't meet the credit criteria. And that credit criteria is pretty hard and fast on that. Whereas the income, there can be a little flexibility. But the one spouse doesn't meet the credit criteria. If the spouse has that credit, they show the same, tax returns. Now all of a sudden you can get approved.
Right. I know you had another question, Matt, but just in that same vein, looking either for double funding or if they can't meet some of the qualifications, like with a car loan or mortgage loan, can you get a cosigner? Does that make a difference?
Absolutely, you bet. And it's a common thing. Parents will cosign. And I say parents, they're not just co-signing for the young person getting started. Parents will co-sign all the way along the way. And it's a great way to help jumpstart this, because the beauty of it is, depending on where anyone might be at personally with that, you get that co-signer and maybe you weren't able to qualify because of your credit score. Well, go to work and we'll help you do it. But go to work improving that credit score. Once you get it back up, now you can go qualify, get your own loan. You can pay off the cosign that maybe mom or dad did for you.
Yeah, Jim, I was thinking about, I know some people that have their own business, and they, as their business grew, and that the income coming in was obviously helping to facilitate the next step in their business, meaning they were going to start aligning vertical businesses next to this business that accompanied whatever that service was. But I would say that they would take from the main business, use that money to fund the next business, which hindered the other business that was ongoing from accomplishing more things as emergencies came up or other growth came up. So I really think that them coming to a person like you, one, to obviously give them some guidance on that, but two, get them to stop funding their own business.
Yeah, I mean, you want to make sure, first and foremost, I mean, at minimum, you want to keep 1 month's operating on hand, right? So if that business, if it costs you $50,000 a month to operate it, you want to have that on hand. That's ideal, or at least you have access to it. You start tapping into those funds for growth and for expansion. I know when we do these deals, we want every deal to stand on its own, and every deal, produces on its own. So yeah, absolutely would agree with you that, you want to get your own funding for the separate projects and let this other company continue to flourish. Because for most businesses, when they choose to expand like that, where the real money is made is in that existing business that maybe is already paid for. They got the additional marketing. Now it's pushing that business up, and while they're getting the other one started.
Yeah, it's like an accelerator.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But people don't understand that you should be out there using somebody else's money.
You should. And the challenge, like I say, a lot of folks that I talk to, they're new owners or they're relatively new, and sometimes they just haven't had that depth of experience, and they need to really associate themselves with someone who's kind of walked that walk and kind of talk that talk. And again, from the consulting side, that's where we can help many of these folks as well.
That's right. That's why we need you, man.
Hey, I'm here right now.
Hey, I was going to ask Jim, because while I'm listening to you, I'm thinking in my mind about people that I help with, home loan financing and things like that. And, a question that always comes up in my business is, can I get approved if my credit or income is below a threshold? So I kind of bring that to you as well. Is that something? I mean, how do you work on that if credit or income is below the threshold?
Yeah. So the income, sometimes you can. Okay, if the credit's good enough. Now, the threshold, that 680 in Equifax, that 680 in Experian, that 680 in TransUnion, that's hard and fast. It could be 679, and they're just, they're going to turn that paper back in. Okay, so it does have to be there. Now, with that said, there are things they can do to improve that. They can get cosigners. There are some solutions in there, but the actual credit score is hard and fast. Now, if they own an existing business, those credit scores in some cases, like I'm thinking what I have here, on like a working capital loan, there's no issue. The FICO score could be nothing. Okay, it's not going to matter. They're not going to look at it. On some of these, on term loans, if that comes into it, it could be as low as 600. So if you have an existing business, and the minimum is 4 months, but certainly if you've been more established, you can get potential funding for 1 to 1.5 times that monthly. So you can go different avenues with this. But to your point, that on the initial program, they would have to hit that credit score criteria.
Well, basically, them having some skin in the game by either already having a business or already kind of, like you said, they always to be looking for funding. So if they're looking for their next funding, there might be some options for them.
Always be looking. I mean, anyone who's listening to this right now, always be looking. Doesn't mean you have to take it, but one of the things you want in business that, from a consulting side, we talk about a lot, and it's the same thing when we're talking about this. One of the things you want in business, you want options. Whenever you get stuck, you can only go one direction, and oops, my credit score was 660. I don't qualify. What am I going to do? Well, we always want options, either options where we're always working to improve that or options for other funding sources.
What types of businesses are you seeing right now that are getting funding? I mean, you mentioned franchising earlier. Is it, restaurant franchising, or, I mean, what is there one common thread?
It's a little bit of everything. I mean, gosh, we've had people that own, farms that needed additional capital, folks that are opening up a first unit franchise, folks that are opening up their first business. Some have a, food delivery service. We've get a whole, wide variety of folks that are interested in it. And it's just all walks of life. They're looking for funding. Hey, and the question is always the same though. How does this work? How does this work? And to give you a quick answer for that, on the program we've talked about, that is no restrictions on use, no collateral, up to $400,000. Here's how it simply works. You send over your most two years tax returns that show at least $50,000 taxable income, and send over your myfico.com. That's where we grab it. Send over your myfico credit report. and that's how it works. That's all that is needed to get funding, as long as everything's in place.
How long can you fund?
I'm sorry?
Years. How many years can you fund those type of loans?
Oh, on those kind of programs right there, they'll fund anywhere between 5 and 7 years.
Wow. Okay.
Now you get in some of the business loans. I mean, they'll go up to a little bit longer in time and a little more stretched out.
Yeah.
And what did you say the turnaround time is, as far as like once they apply, man? How fast can they be funded?
That's always my favorite question, and the reason it is because usually what takes such a long time is people getting all their documentation over. If you're already in business, let's see your articles. Let's see your driver's license. Let's see, proof that you exist. Just getting that is probably the biggest challenge of all of this. But if all that's in place, 7 days to 10 days, they can get funded.
Well, we're gonna go to our commercial break. When we come back, you've put a lot of information out there, Jim. Some great questions from Paul and Matt. I think one of the biggest mistakes that you talked about last week was kind of trying to bootstrap this and not looking for funding. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just can't get off the ground without funding. But when we come back, Jim, if you kind of speak about some of the mistakes that people make when looking for funding, maybe not going with you, that'd be a pretty big mistake. But more importantly, just trying to maybe shortcut or do something the wrong way. So we're going to tease that. As soon as we come back from commercial, we'll have Jim tackle that for us. So stick around on North Texas Pod Connect.
And now a word from a few of our amazing sponsors that make the Difference Radio, live stream, and podcast network possible.
JP Direct Health offers affordable health insurance solutions for individuals, families, and small businesses specializing in custom coverages to fit your needs and budget. JP Direct Health offers comprehensive benefits, including PPO health plans, accident and critical illness coverage, dental and vision, health matching accounts, along with telehealth at no cost per call. Call JP Direct Health today to learn more about how we can help you protect your health and your budget.
Do you want your home or office to sparkle? Then call Elite Diamond Cleaning today. From basic cleaning to deep cleaning, and using only the highest quality cleaning products and equipment, your satisfaction is guaranteed. Our team of experienced cleaners will work quickly and efficiently to clean every nook and cranny, taking care of all the details so you don't have to. With a variety of pricing options to fit any budget, you can be sure that you are getting the best possible price. Call Elite Diamond Cleaning today at 214-300-9876 to schedule a free estimate. Your home and office is a diamond. Let us get it out of the dust.
Are you looking for new or more reliable and affordable home services? Look no further than Utility Connect. At Utility Connect, we understand that every customer is different. Thanks to our partnership with The Difference, our free concierge service seamlessly shops all of your utilities and services for your home or business with one easy phone call. So what are you waiting for? Call Utility Connect today and experience the difference. For more information, give us a call at 469-414-2033 or visit us at www.utilityconnect.net/thedifference to learn more.
Are you a business owner looking to grow your company? Get fast, easy financing up to $5 million with no minimum FICO score required. Apply in 60 seconds and get funded in 24 hours. Call Jim Thomas at 214-629-7223 to talk to a financing professional today. Your business's future is waiting. So don't delay. Call now and tell him that you saw him on The Difference.
And now back to the show.
Welcome back. We are in the second half of our show today, talking with the legend Jim Thomas. A great job so far, just really bringing home in a simple manner what is necessary for getting the funding that we need. Before the break, we talked about some of the mistakes that people make when looking for funding. I think the most obvious, of course, is not looking for funding. But aside of that, Jim, what are some of the other things that you see happening with people?
Yeah, and certainly we want them out there looking for it because that's going to give them the best options to work and grow their business. But the single biggest mistake that I see frequently is they're looking for funding, and every place they look, everyone is doing what's referred to as a hard credit pull. And a hard credit pull is going to show up on your credit report. It's a bit of a ding. It's going to lower that score. Literally, we've had folks that have contacted us and have been approved, but elected not to get the funding. And then they would call back later, say a month or two later, say, oh, you know what, I changed my mind. I think I need the money. Can I go ahead and do that? And so they have to submit a new credit report. And what do we kind of typically find? You know, they were out shopping it. Oh, can I do something better? They found they couldn't, but they have all these credit dings on their report for these hard pulls. Now their credit score is down. Now we can't help them. So, you know, getting a hard pull, that's the thing. I mean, I think hands down, that's it. Now, to your point earlier about kind of bootstrapping and some of that, let me kind of talk about that, because I wouldn't say it's hard and fast that you can't bootstrap. I mean, the reality is, I mean, you know, you're not for the most part.
Define that for us too, if you would, real quick, Jim.
Yeah, we're gonna. It's the old do more with less philosophy. I'm going to do as little as spend as little as I can and try to get as much result as I can. And you bootstrap this, but here's what happens is you cut back on marketing. Now all of a sudden people don't know who you are. And the ones that do aren't being reminded. You're not reminding current customers who you are. You're not running the sales contest. You're not hiring the top salesperson. There's a new opportunity came around to take over an existing operation or to expand yours. You can't move on it because you don't have the funding. And it really does, it'll choke it off. Now, I don't want to make that, you know, a hard and fast thing, because there are companies and our businesses that have bootstrapped it and have started it that way and have progressed. The key thing on that is we have to get out of it quick. It's not a whole lot different than going in and doing a business turnaround. That's really the first thing you do is you simplify the operation, you make your cuts, you gain control of it. Now you've got control. Now we start to accelerate and advance into the market. The person who's starting out, if they start out like that, okay, but at some point, we have to accelerate out of that. You just can't stay into it and expect to have growth. So, I mean, it can work, okay, as long as you have the right guidance. Just make sure if you're doing that, make sure you're associating yourself with someone who I would call a trusted partner, so to speak, that's been down that path. They know what the pitfalls are, because everything's not rosy. You know, I was on a call, you know, prior to getting on here. And it's a new operation going in. It's a significant operation going in, a lot of money being funded for it. And we were going over the budget, kind of the pro forma, which is, of course, the ideal when you look at this. And one of the common things that I see when we review pro formas for folks, this is, again, a little more on the consulting side, but that entrepreneur, and I understand, I'm kind of that same person, when you put those numbers together, it's kind of like rose-colored glasses. Nothing's going wrong. This looks great. And the reality is you kind of need to mesh that kind of thinking with how the banker thinks that's more conservative, and probably find something there in the middle that's realistic, so you can manage this thing on probability as opposed to everything going exactly right, because it probably won't. So
let's say somebody can get approved, okay, and they don't have a specific, you know, they kind of take your advice on just, you know, always be looking for capital, but they don't have a specific need for it. Can they get that approval and just kind of take that and hold on to it for a rainy day, or is there, when you get that approval, you have to specify what you're using it for?
Yeah, the approval has a timeline on it. Usually it's maybe a couple weeks, you know, roughly. And that's primarily because those credit scores can change. Now, the reality is, if their credit scores improve, they might be able to come back and get more money.
What if they actually get the money, though? Do they have to specify what it's for, like in the business, or can they just have that kind of rainy day fund for their business?
Yeah, they do not have to specify it. It's unsecured. There's no restrictions on use. They can just sit on it. They could decide in a few months, hey, I don't need it, and they can give it back if they want to. But repay it, I guess, is a better way to put it.
Right.
But no, they can use that money any way they want to.
Okay, that's good to know. I think, because that kind of goes back to what you're saying is, you know, you should always be looking for funding, even if you're not, you know, you don't really see the need right then. But if something happens and your credit changes, well, you have that little emergency fund, if you will, to use a term in my industry.
Credit's a funny thing. We have a client we're working with, and we ended up being able to help him get funding, but we struggled at first with it because his credit score dropped. And the reason it dropped, he had taken out a loan and he had it on, auto payment. They were just going to debit it every month. Well, for whatever reason, that fell off and the payment didn't get made. And so now payment delinquent, his credit score dropped. Not necessarily his fault, just one of those little things that happens. And so you always have to be looking and kind of monitoring this if you're in business and you're looking to potentially need it, because at some point you're going to need the money.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask real quick. So you brought up an interesting point, because I had the same thing. That I was working with a buyer out in Houston, and he had a ding on one of his mortgage payments being late, but it's because the bank had changed how they were drawing, or the bank got bought by another bank, and his ACH payment didn't get transferred over. So on things like that, do y'all require, because we require like a letter of explanation so we can kind of document it for the file. Do y'all do the same type of things?
It depends on what it is. Sometimes it's some of these government loans that are out there, these EIDLs that people are paying back, and some of those kind of things. We can get those resolved a lot of times if it's that circumstance, but it does take 60 days. It may take 90 days. But yeah, we'll help them try to get it figured out. A lot of times we can. What the lender has to see is simply that My FICO credit report, where those credit numbers are at that 680 or better. Mm-hmm. As soon as we get it back to that, we're good to go.
Speaking of government loans, depending on what sector of the economy your business is in, obviously you can qualify for certain types of loans or obviously tax breaks, but not, we don't want to talk about that specifically here. But if you can qualify for a certain government loan and again, I'm not really familiar, so I'm asking you this. Do you guys recommend that in conjunction with funding from you, or would you ever say, hey, take this loan first over what we're doing, or talk to us about that for just a second?
Yeah, we'll get involved sometimes in some SBA loans and things like that. The biggest issue for most of the people that I talk to, they want the money now. They've got this acquisition. They've got this deal. If I don't act now, it's not going to happen. My landlord, my new landlord wants to see money in the bank before he approves my lease. They want the money now. One of the downsides sometimes government funding, i.e. SBA, it takes so long to do it that it doesn't meet that criteria of getting the money quickly.
Jim, y'all were just touching on a little bit about people coming back and getting, the next loan. But talk to us a little bit about businesses who have gotten a loan from you. And obviously, I know that you have guided them along the way before and after. And what is the repeat business like in your business where, once they see that the process is pretty darn simple, now they can come back and use it again?
I don't know if I have numbers on that. Say if I was kind of just to anecdotally look at it, I say, okay, maybe 20% come back. What a lot of people do on small business is they open that business and they want to run that business and they want to keep running that business. Now, they will come back if they hit a hiccup, they for sure come back. And hopefully that the hiccup hasn't affected credit standing and things like that. Now, there's a whole other group of folks out there that are looking to expand and looking to grow, and they become regular, customers that, we help, long term, because they'll see this as an opportunity. Because depending on, anyone listening right now, you own a business, there's other similar businesses to you. You have competition out there. Well, there's a lot of those folks out there. They would love to get out of the business. They have family issues. They need to move. There's circumstances. They just would love to get out. And many of these times you can take over these businesses pretty inexpensively and pretty easily. And the landlord would love to have you, might even give you some free rent, to help get you in there and get you started. Yeah. If you've got the funding, you can move quickly.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that we kind of talk to the most.
I have a couple friend of mine that they bought an existing business in the Denton area that was promotional, items. and the business has been in a long time, and the people were ready to get out, and they, found them on that website, on the internet, and got an offer, and those people got out from under it, under the headache that they didn't want anymore, and new people took off with it, and they did really good.
Yeah. I mean, there's really nice opportunities out there if you're able to move on it. If you're trying to, I'm trying to start this business and now I'm going to bootstrap another one, that can kind of just, swallow you up.
It's definitely like the mortgage business and home buying businesses nowadays. If you're not pre-qualified and you're not ready to go, you're not even in the
conversation.
Yeah. Right. Somebody's going to bid. By the time you get to bid on it and make an offer, it's already got a contract on it.
Right.
Well, before we hit our last commercial break in just a moment, I know we teased a little bit about this, and Matt, you were asking about, already having funding and getting more funding, but what are some of the specific things, Jim, that you either recommend people get continual funding or additional funding that already have a business, or that you see kind of happening frequently, or take it a different way, that people don't realize that they might need it for?
I think most any business could probably use it. And I'll say this as the primary reason. Lyndon, I know, has brought this up, numerous times. The biggest challenge that small independent businesses have is that nobody knows who you are, and those that do don't have you at top of mind. And so many small businesses, they may have one or maybe two sources of getting people to come in. And you want to have, a page full of ways that you get people to come in, because that's how you're going to grow your business. And so these folks that are doing this little bit of marketing, it's going to continue to be a struggle. And no matter how good your product is, unless people are walking in or they're calling or they're emailing or they're texting, it's going to be a struggle. And so funding, the number one thing, if you're in that spot like that, get yourself funding. Get a regular marketing schedule going. Get, as I say, get the phone to ring, the door to swing, the email to ding, and the text to ping. Get customers walking in, and let's convert them into buying customers that want to come back and do it again. And marketing is one of the big things that people forget about.
It may not always be true, but it does kind of go back to the old adage of you have to spend money to make money. Yeah. And I think a lot of people try to circumvent that, which, sometimes you can, but you can't really do it long term. So,
part of the thing in the modern world, I think people think that they can do a post on social media, once a week or every few days, and that's going to do it for them. And, that won't. You need to do significantly more than that.
Absolutely. Let's hit our last break. When we come back, I want to hear a little more from Matt and Paul specifically about their businesses, what they're doing, what they're looking for, and then we'll let Jim wrap us up here as we finish up today. So stick around for the last 15 minutes in the North Texas Pod Connect.
And now a word from a few of our amazing sponsors that make the Difference Radio, live stream, and podcast network possible.
A small or large business owner? Do you need insurance to protect your business and help manage risk? If so, then you need to talk to Stephen Pine with Patterson & Associates Insurance. Patterson & Associates offers a wide variety of commercial insurance policies to fit the needs of businesses of all sizes. We understand that every business is different, which is why we offer customized policies to meet all risk management needs. So what are you waiting for? Contact Stephen and Patterson & Associates Insurance today and get the peace of mind that comes with knowing your business is protected. Visit www.piainsure.com or call 972-669-2431 to learn more.
Are you looking to buy a home? The process can be daunting, but it doesn't have to be. With the help of a qualified loan officer like Paul Fisher, you can get the financing you need and get into your dream home. Paul Fisher, a direct local lender with Certainty Home Lending, has many years of experience helping people buy homes. He's knowledgeable, experienced, and he'll work with you to find the best loan for your needs. Contact Paul Fisher today to get started on your home buying journey. He'll help you every step of the way, so you can relax and focus on finding your dream home. Visit www.loansbyfisher.com or call 817-308-7361 to schedule a consultation with Paul. MLS number 2018111.
And now back to the show.
Welcome back as we wrap up the final 15 minutes here. Much thanks, of course, to Jim Thomas, who is going to continue to talk more and more about the concept of business funding as we dive into little intricacies and different parts of. Hopefully, we'll answer your question as you're listening. Of course, we'll always encourage you to ask questions in the chat. We'll try to get those on air as we continue the last couple of shows of July. Thank you to Matt and Paul. As we wrap up here in the next 12 minutes or so, let's go to you, Matt. Talk to us a little bit about Denton Does It. I know you have that up there every time that you're on the show, but of course you're also very involved in the mortgage and title world. So give us a little bit about you, what you're involved in, what you're looking for from a business standpoint, and how we can kind of help you continue to expand up there in the Denton area.
Yeah. Thanks, Nathan. So the reason that we created Denton Does It was to have a platform for networking in our local community here and to showcase businesses, people, and events that are going on. Denton is really a unique place that, one, it was built off of a square. And so there's a lot of nice, neat buildings, restaurants, bars, clothing stores, jewelry stores, all kinds of food places to go to that are very enjoyable. And obviously, having two colleges here, there is always nightlife going on. The Square just finished Twilight Tunes, which goes on for 2 months, and for that going on, there's always music there on the Square. Something's always going there on the weekend. And then all the restaurants are right there, whether you want to be inside where the air conditioning is, or you want to, be on top of a rooftop in the heat. At some time, some of that has air conditioning too.
Why would you want to be in the heat? This is a real question.
Right. But we have like the North Texas Fair and Rodeo coming up third week in August. I think August 18th it kicks off, and the first Saturday of that, they're going to have a parade around the square like they always do, and so that's really cool to be a part of. And plus, there's just so much to eat around and go to around there. So a lot of music, because we have Arts and Jazz Festival. We have Arts and Autos, which is a car show around the square. This year, we had over 350 registered cars in that. And now they're going to have to move the blockade, another block, to get more cars in for this year's event going on. And so just always something going on. And, people can ride the train from the Dallas area all the way up here if they don't feel like they want to drive. But having an expanded highway now on 35, it's pretty easy to get up here from the Dallas and Fort Worth area. And on my other business side, Freedom Title, what I always want to tell everybody is I look at I know what's going on in the real estate market, especially in the Denton area. So I always see, a lot of the listings, where the listings are. And I just want to reach out and tell those agents who are not from the Denton area that are doing the listings in the Denton area that, hey, you get what you see here. Know, like, and trust. I have a great team that I work with. We have a beautiful office right here off the highway, off Lillian Miller and 35. We're easy to get to. And there's no reason for somebody to have to use another title company from out of the area where your clients are not convenient to go to when you've got a place here like this and a team like that I work with. So I'm really proud of that.
Paul, you had a little bit in common from a funding standpoint with our topic today. Obviously, different type of funding and some great questions in trying to figure out the correlation. But talk about Certainty Home Lending. You mentioned a family business. You're out in Frisco, but obviously, helping people in the greater DFW area. How's business going with you?
Yeah, I mean, it was great to hear Jim on because I had my notepad here and I kept writing notes. So ask about this, ask about that, and there's a lot of acronyms that kept popping into mind about what we do for mortgage lending and what Jim does for business lending. So it was really great information. But yeah, I say family-owned business. Now we're part of a larger company, so we're Certainty Home Lending, and we are a joint venture with a larger company called Guaranteed Rate. But then, the nice thing about Certainty is we're a direct mortgage, lender. So we are not a brokerage. So we're, you think more like a mortgage banker. And one of the, biggest things that I tell when I meet with, realtors or home builders or even home buyers is that, the thing that sets us apart is our people. So our processors and underwriters all work for certainty. They're not some third party out in Indiana that don't know how to do Texas loans or anything like that. So, I mean, from our funders and closers, we all work for certainty, and they're all as W-2 employees. So, that's one of the biggest things that sets us apart. And I like what Matt said about using somebody local. It's funny. I think the last 6 or 7 of my transactions have all been people that have moved from other states that want to come to Texas and specifically like Frisco and Plano. There's a lot of growth here, which is the schools are great. And serving on the Frisco Chamber of Ambassador team, you get to see a lot of that with new businesses coming in. And I'm sure they had to get funding for their franchise and things of that nature. So it's just an exciting time to be a part of Frisco and Plano and the greater North Texas area, because quite honestly, this is where people want to live. Even with I think it was 116 yesterday is what my car said. So even with a little bit of the heat, we're still happy. We still got plenty of room, and we're welcome to get them in here.
Well, I hope that it's interesting because I always look at the weather 2 weeks out, and it
just says hot.
It does. It's hot until the end of the month, and then I think maybe, of course, it's August, so that's like the hottest month. So who knows what we're going to get? So. Well, I'm going to let Jim wrap us up here. And again, thank you guys, as always, great contributors and PodConnect members of our inaugural chapter here. And Matt really doing a great job at expanding into our community, different shows as he's launching Denton. Now, Paul, I hear a rumor that you might try to help launch Frisco at some point. I'm not putting anything directly on your plate, but
I mean, why not? I mean, we there's some powerful players if in our little group. So yeah, we can certainly do that.
Between you and Brian Podeska, who's also a PodConnect member, who's been really a longtime friend of the difference.
Brian is the power player, so yeah, he is definitely the one.
Well, fantastic. Well, Jim, again, thank you, Jim. I think we've got a lot of just really great insight. And before I have you wrap it up, because I want to kind of tease where we're going to go next week, I want to remind everybody there's a big event tomorrow in Rockwall at the Eldorado Cigar Shop. They're going to be talking about the actual Rockwall show launch. So what Matt's doing in Denton, we've got some folks that are going to be doing the same thing in Rockwall area. So total opposite ends. So we've got kind of the Metroplex bracketed kind of north and southeast all kind of together. So that's fantastic. That's going to be at 6 p.m. tomorrow. So if you want to know more about the show, or if you love cigars, or if you want to meet people, or all the above, come check it out tomorrow at 6 p.m. Again, that's the Eldorado Cigar Shop in Rockwall tomorrow. So, Jim, we got about 2 minutes left. Give us a preview of what we're going to talk about next week and kind of take us home today.
Yeah, I think next week, one of the big things I like to focus on a bit is other opportunities, for funding, and really drilling down on what those qualifications are, whether it be for working capital, it's equipment financing, it's lines of credit, it's term loans for folks that are already in business. And you don't always have to be perfect, but as long as you can meet certain criteria, we can help you with funding. And the simplicity rules still apply, and the quickness of it still applies. And these funding opportunities, depending on who you are, you could get funding for as much as $5 million if your bank statements are good enough. So we'll be diving into that, and of course taking some additional questions from everybody else.
Well, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Can't wait for next week. As we're going to transition more into that, already having some your business is up and running in that capital and some different options there. So I can't wait to talk about that. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Paul. Of course, thank you, Jim. If you may have heard the show today or heard parts of it, or maybe you're listening to it after the fact, and you say, man, I know somebody that definitely needs to hear this, or they're trying to start a business, share the show with them, invite them to the private group, the North Texas PodConnect group on Facebook. There's no charge. It's just, you get into the group, you have access to everything here. Share the show. We'd love to just continue to grow our network and help as many people as we can. So thank you again for our listeners, for all of our sponsors, for our guests today, our PodConnect members, and stick around for next week where we dive more deeply into the area of business funding. So to Matt, to Jim, to Paul, and of course, Lyndon producing in the back, thank you guys so much. Have a blessed day. We'll see you next week at 11:30.
Thank you much.
Thank you for tuning in and watching our show. If you would like to see our next show, or more shows like this one, just click the QR code and go to show schedules, or just follow and subscribe to our channels to get updates and notifications of this show, and many others like it.